Citizens of the free world, I am Hoverman Cop, defender of justice, defender of the people, defender of the earth. This is important. For those of you who live in Clearwater, Florida, and all of you of the free world, yesterday, at Circle A convenience store in Clearwater, Florida, a black female driving a vehicle with her boyfriend, 5-year-old son, was in the vehicle and parked in a handicap section of the parking lot. This black female is named Brittany Jacobs, and her boyfriend, Marquise McLaughlin. Marquise gets out of the vehicle, who is 28 years old, and goes inside the store with the 5-year-old son. And out of nowhere, a white male by the name of Michael Draker approaches Brittany, who was waiting outside for Marquise, and immediately started arguing with Brittany, causing a verbal altercation. And in the midst of arguing with her, he states to her about a parking violation being made by her, and he wants the car removed, and he's highly upset because of the fact that the car was parked in a handicap spot. Now, my question is, did Michael Draker drive up to that parking spot, wanting that handicap section of the area where the vehicle was parked? No. Did Michael Draker have a license, certified, employed to look at vehicles who does or does not have handicap stickers or plaques in the vehicle for the state of Florida or the city of Clearwater? No, he does not. Does Michael Draker, or did he at that time, was working at the Circle A convenience store, or is he employed by the store at that location? No, he is not. So you mean to tell me that a stranger out of nowhere, who is known, by the way, in that area and in that community for targeting blacks, yelling at them, causing arguments and disturbances, and calling black people in that area the N-word. And so on this day, he makes another target, and that target happens to be Brittany, and causes an altercation with a female, and he's a 47-year-old man approaching and verbally attacking a female at a convenience store over a parking lot violation. So, in the midst of the argument, a witness sees it, so much so that it disturbed the witness so much so that he thought it was a good idea to inform those within the convenience store who works there, possibly to call the police because the altercation had to be pretty intensive and violent on his behalf towards that female, that a witness had to inform the establishment there to call the police, I'm thinking. And so Marquise becomes aware that his girlfriend, who he is with, a 5-year-old child, sees a stranger verbally attacking his girlfriend, who they do not know. And in response, he comes to the aid of Brittany, his girlfriend, sees the aggressor towards his girlfriend. He pushes away the aggressor for the safety of his girlfriend, himself, and the 5-year-old child who was present at the scene. And after he pushes Michael Draker to the ground, Michael Draker, in response to being pushed to the ground, pulls out his gun and shoots Marquise McLaughlin in the chest. And eventually, Marquise dies from the gunshot wound. And so, is this a stand your ground law? Defense for Michael Draker. I want you to listen into the sheriff's response, and I'll be breaking this down to the very end of the bone. You will make the final decision, and what you will decide to do, citizens of the free world, and those of you in the state of Florida, from all the law enforcement agencies to those who make the laws of that state, to the lawyers, the judges, the councilmen, the mayor. What will be your decision? After the fact, you will hear this. I'll be back.
At about 3:30 yesterday afternoon, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office responded to the Circle A convenience store at 1201 Sunset Point Road in Clearwater. And what we know from the investigation is that Marquise McLaughlin, who's a 28-year-old African-American male, had arrived at the store with his girlfriend, Brittany Jacobs. Brittany parked their car in a handicapped spot by the store. Marquise and his son, who's 5 years old, went into the store. Another person by the name of Michael Draker, 47 years old, white male, arrived at the store. He lives in the area and was a frequent customer of the store. And somebody who others have said complained about people parking in the handicapped spots. And he had an issue with people who illegally parked in handicapped spots at that store.
All right, now you see what you should notice first. Michael Draker had an issue with people parking illegally in the handicap spot. So on that day, he decides to be law enforcement and took matters in his own hands with a concealed loaded handgun and is angry from the beginning. Already has the mindset, he's fed up, he's tired of people parking illegally, he's not a police officer, he isn't licensed to notify, observe vehicles and give tickets for violations of parking illegally. He doesn't work for the establishment, and he takes matters in his own hands and says enough is enough. So on that day, this is what happens. Let's listen to the rest.
Gets out of his car and is checking around Jacob's car and looking for handicap decals or permits or anything that would authorize them to park where they did. When he didn't see that, he confronted Jacobs, and by all accounts, is that they got into a pretty significant yelling match. And there was no physical violence, there was no threats, but it was a disturbance, and that they were yelling at each other, and he was complaining about her parking in a handicapped spot.
Well, let me go ahead and tell you, when someone comes to you and approaches you and your family out of nowhere and begins attacking you verbally, you don't know that individual. Is that not considered a threat? In fact, if I'm right, Michael Draker is a grown man, 47 years old, as was stated, approaching, attacking verbally a female for parking in a handicapped spot. She doesn't know him, he doesn't know her, she's minding her own business, and this man, stranger, comes out of nowhere and goes to her, attacks her verbally about parking. Is this not insane? A stranger with a loaded gun that she doesn't know at the time approaches her verbally and violently attacks her about parking in a handicap spot.
There was another customer there at the store, and the customer went inside and told the store employee that there was a disturbance in the parking lot and that he should do something about it, which was interpreted to mean probably call the police. At that point, Marquise McLaughlin was in the store and learned of the disturbance in the parking lot. And it appears that he learned that it was his girlfriend, Brittany Jacobs, who was involved in this verbal altercation with Draco. So he exits the store. And when he exits the store, and it is captured on video, and we'll show you the video here in a second, he walks out the door and walks straight toward, meaning Draco, walks straight toward McLaughlin. And by all witness accounts, there was no verbalization. There were no statements that were exchanged between McLaughlin and Draco. Let the video pretty much speak for itself, but I'll characterize it this way is that McLaughlin approached Draco. He didn't waste any time getting to him, and then he pushed him, but it isn't just a push. He really slammed him to the ground is what it is. And he pushed him with great force.
Okay, now a witness sees an altercation verbally between Michael Draker and Brittany, the driver of the vehicle. So the witness noticed it was pretty intensive, so by all means, he goes into the store to inform and to notify the employees at that store, possibly to indicate to call the police. And so Marquise, with his 5-year-old son, becomes aware that his girlfriend is in an altercation with a stranger who they do not know. And so Marquise protects his girlfriend, and in the safety of him, his girlfriend, and the 5-year-old who is present at the scene, pushes this stranger who is the threat to them away from his girlfriend to protect her, himself, and the 5-year-old child at the scene. Pushes him. There's a difference between a push. If he was slammed, slamming means you would have to grab an individual, pick them up, and slam them down to the ground. He was not slammed to the ground, he was pushed to the ground. Even if he was slammed to the ground, does it give anybody the right to pull out a gun and use deadly force on another human being? I don't think so. So he pushes him down to the ground. And Marquise looks at him on the ground. And in the response, Michael Draker pulls out a loaded weapon because he was pushed down to the ground. When he pulls out that gun, does Michael Draker warns Mr. Marquise McLaughlin that his gun is loaded? No, he does not. Well, does Michael Draker warns him that if he doesn't back up, he will shoot him? Did he say that? No, he did not. What did Michael Draker do? He pulls out his gun and he shoots Marquise McLaughlin. Now, did Michael Draker shoot Marquise McLaughlin in the foot or leg? So it won't be possibly that deadly of a hit where he could die just to remove the threat away from him? No, he did not. He aimed directly at the chest of Marquise McLaughlin and shoots him in the chest using direct, specific, deadly force. He had his mind already made out. He started the altercation, approaches them, argues with a female, and he's a grown man, stronger than the female, yells at the female, is not licensed, is not security at the scene, is not employed at the store, did not inform the employee of that store. He did not call the police to the scene to take care of the matter. He took the matters in his own hands with a loaded gun concealed upon him. Marquise comes out of the store, sees this stranger, this insane man, yelling at his girlfriend. He approaches him, pushes him away from his girlfriend, 5-year-old at the scene. He falls down to the ground, pulls out a weapon because he was pushed, and shoots him using deadly force.
And a shot. This wasn't just a tap. It was with his hands, and he slammed him to the ground. So Draker falls back. And as Draker falls back, he is on his rear end on the ground. And at that point, McLaughlin is still a few feet away. McLaughlin is facing Draker, and Draker is on the ground. And when Draker had been slammed to the ground, he then reaches, because he's a concealed carry permit holder, and he can lawfully carry a concealed firearm, he reaches and takes out his firearm. And at that point, McLaughlin is still, again, a few feet away. He's facing Draker. Looks like he's starting to turn a little bit, maybe as we would call blading, which is kind of at an angle. But he's not turned away. He's still facing. And at that point, Draker fires one round from the gun, and it strikes McLaughlin right here in the chest. McLaughlin then grabs his chest and retreats back into the store, where he collapses. EMS responded. He was taken to Morton Plant Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Draker, after he shot McLaughlin, took his firearm, put it in his car, and waited for law enforcement to respond.
After he's shot, he goes into the store, collapses, shot in front of his girlfriend, shot in front of his 5-year-old son, shot, blood all over the place. His girlfriend and his son sees him being shot, bleeding, running. Ambulance comes, and now he's no longer here. Michael Draker has the audacity enough and the sense enough to remove his gun and puts it in the car, but did not have the mindset of keeping a loaded weapon from his person when approaching with a negative, violent mindset towards an individual for parking in a handicap. He didn't have that mindset. His mindset was set on having a loaded weapon and approaching an individual with a loaded weapon, causing an altercation. Pulls out a weapon in front of a female, a 5-year-old, and a grown man, protecting his family and his son, his girlfriend. And this is what you call stand your ground law, where you can be pushed. And in defense of you being pushed, when you start an altercation, you can shoot and kill an individual. Is that justice? And so now we are faced with a father who will no longer see his son, the son who will no longer see his father who will not see his son grow up to be a young man, the son will never hear the voice, the presence of his father, a mother, a cousin, a grandma, a grandfather will no longer see their grandson, their son. Marquise McLawton cannot speak for himself now. Marquise McLawton cannot defend himself now. But you, the citizens of Florida, you, the government officials of Florida, you, the leaders of Clearwater, you, the citizens of this country, can speak and defend for him. Is this stand your ground law, or is this murder?